Hello lovely people, this is Ultimate Tweeter Shootout part 4, and in today's videos we'll be talking about the distortion. If this is your first video that you're jumping into the shootout, please check out the previous videos that I did about sensitivity, lowest crossover point, and RTA measurements in a car. This one is going to be about distortion. So first of all, as always, I'm going to try to explain it to you what is distortion, how I measure it, why is it important, and then we're going to go through all the data and we're going to give kind of good and bad marks for high and low distortion tweeters. Distortion in acoustical measurements, as well known as THD, total harmonic distortion. Whenever you're playing a single sine tone, such as this example, you will have some distortion elements where you have harmonics popping up at different frequencies. The harmonics are going to be doubling of the fundamental frequency. So in this specific example, this is a 4 kilohertz sine tone, and we have a harmonic at 8 kilohertz, at 12 kilohertz, 16, and so on and so on. These are too small to see. This is probably just noise. So this specific driver has very nice harmonic distortion pattern with very low distortion overall, and we have the second harmonic dominating, and then we have the third harmonic. As an example, just a different drive, I'm going to show you this one, which has a bit different distortion pattern and different levels. So this driver has the same 4 kilohertz fundamental note, has second harmonic which is lower, and it has the third harmonic which is higher, and then it alternates lower, higher, lower, higher, and so on. And this specific driver has much more harmonics compared to this one. Now, the way to measure distortion is to just make a sine sweep and check the distortion tab here. So this is our distortion, and this is basically all the components of distortion that we really don't need. Now, if you watch the previous video, every single driver will have a different crossover point where distortion is trying to be kept below 1%. It might pop a little bit up, but nothing extortionate. And we will be interested in the overall distortion pattern, and we're going to compare the drivers to see which driver has the highest distortion and which have the lowest. From all of these harmonics, you can see the fundamental and all the harmonics up to the 9th harmonic. If we're going to come back to this one and that different driver, this is the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so on harmonics. We really don't need to see that. So we're going to untick basically all the harmonics, and we're going to leave the second and the third. As well, we're not really interested in the noise floor as long as our measurements are at or below the noise floor. So we're going to remove that as well. And we have this view where we have usually the second harmonic is the same as THD, and we have a third harmonic trailing down below. So in this video, we're going to have a look at the distortion, and as well, I'm just going to add third harmonic. So we're going to rank as drivers as well with the lowest third harmonic and the highest third harmonic. Why? Because if you have a driver such as this, and your third harmonic is low and the second harmonic is high, that driver will sound more pleasant compared to a driver that has a higher third harmonic. Now, big disclaimer, we will not talk about threshold of audibility of distortion. That means we're not gonna discuss how audible or not audible this specific distortion is. If we have a difference of distortion between 0.3 and 0.5, that will be, in my opinion, absolutely not audible. However, for comparison reasons, we will still declare that lower distortion is better. You're not gonna hear it, but it's just a technicality that the numbers in our case, even if they're not audible, they are super important. Same goes for that third harmonic. Even if, for example, a driver such as this has a higher third harmonic, Even if it's not audible, we will still consider this to be worse than this, which has a opposite correlation. So this is exactly what we're going to do here when we're going to rank the harmonics. But first, we're going to start with the overall distortion. This is all the drivers' distortion overlaid one on top of each other. This is 71 graphs. If you want to analyze them one by one, you can definitely do that. Just do this, this, and look. But in this video, just to save some time, I will point out the drivers with the highest distortion and the drivers with the lowest distortion. Our target is 1%. Anything that goes above 1% in our case is going to be bad. And we can see straight away that we do have quite a few drivers that are going above 1%. Some of them reach 10%, 5%, 20%, even with those crossovers. Let's take as an example this Vibe Black Air. Let's remove all of them and leave only this driver. This driver's crossed 3.2K, which is somewhere here. This crossover point was based on the distortion over here. If I would lower the crossover point to 2.5, 2K, this will go above 1% and it's not going to meet my criteria for the lowest crossover. However, we still have high distortion here at 6 and 8K. In order to get rid of this distortion, I would need to cross this driver at 10, 11, or 12K. This is unreasonable. And this is just an indication that it might be that this driver has some problems, or that the driver is not really suitable to play 90 dB. If you would play 80 dB, this 2% distortion would go probably below 1%. And we do indeed have quite a few drivers such as this, and you can see them here popping all over the place. So what I did, I went through all of them and I made myself a list of drivers. This is just a number, which is here, that have a distortion higher than 1%. This is the graph after the cleaning up. Basically, I took all of these and I unticked them from the bottom legend. And now we can see that everything fits below 1%. We do have this little one guy, which is, I believe, Dayton ND16. So it is crossed at 5K, which is here crossover, and it still peaks a little bit here. So maybe 5.5, 6K would remove this, but it's just, I left it there like that. As well, we do have something here, which is distortion at 18 kilohertz. This is not important because again, our hearing threshold is like up to 16, 17 kilohertz. So 2% at 18K, I don't think it's going to be a problem. So maybe we left a few exceptions, but all of them now fit below 1%. Yes, we do have this little peak here. Again, just a few exceptions. We're looking for something majorly different. And majorly different is toggle trace sections. All of these drivers. These are the ones that are way above 1% for one or another reason. For example, focal access, probably I could have unticked it because it would need just maybe a 6K crossover and then the distortion would go down. So yeah, maybe let's do that. Untick this one and just we would need to increase the distortion up to 6K. Let's have a look at the next one. Hertz HT25 with an 8K crossover, you can see that distortion reaches still 10%. The crossover is here and it is still peaking here. If you would cross it at 12K or something, it would have just no response at all. So that's why it's bad distortion wise. Infinity Emit driver is not bad really. However, it's crossed at 9K. So you can see where that 9K is. It is here, and the distortion goes above 1% at 5.5K. So the crossover doesn't really remove that distortion for some reason. There's no response there, but it still has high distortion, so it's not that great. Next one, Bose, one of the OEM drivers. Distortion at lower end is kind of fine, but you can see the up top, 15, 16K, it's like 5%. 5% distortion is audible, and 16K, even if it's a very, very top end of our hearing spectrum, we can still hear it, so that's not that good. Dayton AMT Mini, the fake one, is not that bad. It goes just a tiny bit above 1%, so maybe we could make an exception for it, but it is crossed at 8.5K, so let's make an exception for it. Next one is Vibe Slick, crossed at 4K. Now, the problem with this one is that when I crossed it at 9K, I showed it in the previous video, the distortion still is high at 10%, but it's at higher frequencies. So this driver is just literally doesn't like playing 90 dB, and even at crossed at 4K here, it still has distortion here. So yeah, not that good. Next one is the Edge, which is the piezo driver. For some reason, it is crossed at 7K, and it still has a distortion peak you can see at what, 1.7K? I don't know why. It is in the noise, but it still pops up, and it's still 2%, and at 11K here as well, it's above 1%, 2%, so not that great. Another OEM driver, it's not that bad, just tiny bit about 1%, so let's make an exception for this. This is kinda okay. Power acoustic, piezo driver, 20% distortion at 8K. This is the worst, and it is clearly audible. This is really bad. Vibe Black Air, it's not that bad at the lower frequencies. It's crossed at 3K, so just to manage the distortion here. However, it does have 2% at about 6K, and at 6K is where we have a little bit of harshness and a little bit of sibilance. 2%, not that bad, but when you crank it up, that would rise up to 3-4%, and it's not good. So this one, we're gonna keep it as a bad one. Another Edge driver, this is the horn loaded one, and even crossed at 7K, which the crossover is here, it still doesn't remove the distortion at 4 and 5K, and it's 5%. This is bad. Dayton AN25F. This is overall a bit tricky because at the lower, it's crossed at 2K, so it can handle very low crossover. And you can see in this area, it's kind of okay, but it has quite a high distortion at 6K and above. It rises up to, what, 3%? So in my book, this is not good. We're going to be very critical. China Planar driver crossed at 10K. Here it's crossed at 10K, and the distortion at 3.5%. This is not good. Another recoil, a horn tweeter, crossed at 5K here, and it goes a little bit above 1%. And shall we make an exception? Maybe? Yeah, let's make an exception. This is not that bad, so let's remove it. Okay, from all the other ones, another recoil, crossed at 3K, which manages the distortion here at 4, but if you look at the higher frequencies, above 7K, here, it peaks at 3%, which is not good. Then one of the DS18, 11 and 12 kilohertz, peaks at 3%, not good. The BMR, as well, 7K, 3%, 11, 12K, 3%, not good. SB26, it's very good distortion at lower frequencies, but see at higher frequencies, even with 1K crossover, it deals with distortion very nice at the lower here, but higher at 7.5K, we have 2%, which being critical is not good. Another DS18, this is just overall. It's crossed at 3K. If you want to manage the distortion, it should be crossed probably at 5-6K. So maybe we can keep it, make an exception. Instead of 3K, cross it at 6K, and then it's going to be okay. But overall, it's 2% all over. So yeah, not that good. We're going to keep it after all. Hybrid audio, Clarus. So at the lower frequencies, kind of okay. However, at here, we have a little peak at 1.5%. Not that bad. Let's make an exception for it. It's not that bad. Say yes. I did put it as slightly worse because of this peak at 6K, but that peak at 6K is still 1%, just a little bit above 1%, and it can be crossed at 1.5K. So it's not that great, but it's not bad at all. Let's make an exception for it as well. Another DS18, it's crossed at 4K, which is here, and it still has loads, 3.6% distortion lower, so it's bad. And another recoil, which is the bullet. So it's not bad distortion at the lower frequencies. Here it's like 1% or something, but at higher you can see 10K reaches 3%. So this is not good. So all of these that are left, let's give them a red mark in our distortion evaluation. Okay, so here we have our worst performance. What we can see, DS18, all three of them have quite bad. Both edges as well. So these are kind of SPL budget type drivers. Hertz, Infinity, yeah, it does have one of the OEMs. 2 recoils out of 4. Power acoustics, obviously. One of the SB acoustics drivers. MBR, yeah, it has 2 reds already. And 2 of the Vibe as well. So Vibe, Edge, and DS18 kind of stand out, and this ribbon as well. So now what we're going to do, we're going to check the best performance. That means drivers with the lowest distortion. So what I'm going to do with this is just literally go one by one and pick out all of the high distortion drivers until we're going to have left only the ones that have the lowest distortion. Okay, I removed quite a few. However, now it's becoming very difficult. So we need to kind of concentrate on where we want to focus. I think we're going to focus on the distortion from 2K up till, because we're going to ignore this, up till, let's say 17. So let's do this. And 17. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in so that I could see the differences more easily. There we go. It's extremely zoomed in graph. So let's have a look. Yeah, so for example, this one, Steg, you can see that it's way above all the other ones. So something like this, and I'm just gonna basically look for, like I'm gonna find this one, I'm gonna remove it, I'm gonna find this one, I'm gonna remove it, and basically most of them like that. Now it's becoming very difficult. It's like, this is like literally, there's no number based like analysis because you cannot do anything. This is just literally you looking and trying to find the worst contenders and just remove them. So now we can see 1% is here. So we already dropped like probably 0.5%, and we're trying to evaluate which driver is cleaner than this. Now, full disclosure, all of these drivers that are here already, they're here below 1% and here below 0.5%. You will not be able to tell the difference between them distortion wise. Impossible. However, just for the sake of doing this, I'm gonna try to have maybe cut it down to 10 drivers, so we would have some kind of a best, but it's very difficult. Like, look, I have to make a decision. SB29 and AMT. You see, it's like if you average it out, it's kind of the same. So, do I leave both? Probably leave both. But like, if you take, for example, these two drivers, which one is a Helix and Pioneer? Yeah, you can clearly see that the Helix is cleaner and the Pioneer is not. So, yeah. Okay, so this is 16 drivers left. Now, from all of these 16s, I will try to drop a few more just to have something like maybe 10. Like this one is tricky. Stevens Audio, yeah? It's super clean between 3 and 5.5K. And then it has that bloody peak at, what, 6.5K? And another peak at 13. Should I leave it? I don't know. This one looks to be the highest Museway. And like, see, now we're talking about distortion below 0.5%. This here is 0.3%. And again, it's just pure numbers. So, like this, is this worse? OEM and Museway. Man, it's kind of the same. Or this one with Vifa. Yeah, Vifa probably is cleaner than the Museway, but like Illusion Audio, yeah? It has a highest at 11-12K, you can see it is quite high, but lower, like below 5K, here is the lowest of them all. So, you know what I think? Because it's impossible to judge which is, it's literally impossible to judge like this one, see? The only difference is like 7-8K, that little peak. Everything else higher, lower, I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave all of these 16s as best ones. Yeah, let's leave these. Okay, so I entered the green ones here. So from all of these, like if you want to try to find the best and the worst out of these, good luck with that. Probably this one, Museway, would be the worst of the best, if you want to call it. But the lowest, absolute lowest distortion, it's really hard to say. Like the vibe, overall, vibe Sven, overall it has quite low level. Alpine Type R is interesting. It has a crossover at 7.5K. But like above 7.5K is one of the cleanest. You can see. This Helix is kind of surprising, like 0.3% throughout the range, and like above 6K you can see it's still dropping. Like, see the difference between ground zero. Ground zero is a little bit worse. It's like 0.4. And again, you see the difference. 0.3K, 0.3% and 0.4%. Like technically the Helix is better than ground zero, but like this Stevens, again, it's very complicated because of these two peaks, but between 3K and 5K, it's like stellar. It's the lowest distortion of the wall where the harshest frequencies are, but high distortion everywhere else. So again, if you want to rank this, good luck. Like the Mundorf, uh, yeah, it's similar to the Helix actually. Let me do this. Clear, Helix, and Mundorf. Yeah, so i5 is technically like above 5.5K. Technically, it is cleaner than the Mundorf. But like, you know, and Stevens is much cleaner than this. So like Stevens and Mundorf between 3K and 5.5K. Stevens is much cleaner than the Mundorf. Here as well is cleaner. You know, the Vifa is as clean as the Mundorf. Because I know everybody's gonna ask about the Mundorf. Museway, yeah, Museway above 6K is the same. Below 6K is this. Let's compare Museway and Helix. Yeah, so Helix is cleaner than Museway. Same as Vifa. Very similar. Like this is lower, this is higher. MB Quart is higher. It's like the Helix i5 in some place, like this Sven as well. This is a bit higher and this is higher, but it's kind of the same. This Becker, yeah, so same, lower, and then higher a little bit. So again, it's very difficult to say. But if I would have to pick just a few, I want to pick the Stevens because it's very, very low here. This is very good, Dayton. Man, it's so difficult to choose. This is obviously higher than the rest. This is higher. I really like the Alpine. Okay, so again, this is gonna be my personal thing. I'm gonna give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 I'm gonna give green for myself. Okay, so 7. Now let's have a look very quickly at like how these 7 perform in other areas. Alpine Type R, Needs a high crossover. That's the only downside. Kind of lowish sensitivity, but not bad. Dayton, okay. Yeah, Dayton is very nice. This Becker, kind of okay, very okay. The only problem is that I don't know if you can buy it. Helix i5, okay everywhere. Mundorf, very good. Good. So Mundorf, kind of, I guess, no surprise that is that good. Stevens Audio, the only downside, it's kind of need a high-ish crossover 4K, but it's very, in a three-way is going to be perfect. And Vibe Sven, low crossover, this is nice. High sensitivity, yeah. Vibe Sven is very nice. Like compared to all the others vibes, like these have bad distortion and this is good. So these are my top picks from distortion point of view. Now let's very quickly just double check the third harmonic. Exactly the same process, just here, if we're gonna go to, instead of THD, we're gonna choose the third harmonic. And basically I'm gonna choose in a high frequency range, the drivers from all of them, the ones that have the highest third harmonic and the lowest. Maybe just let's pick 3 or something. So obviously the ones that are going to stand out, the ones that are above 1%, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's find these. Hertz, HT25, give it a red one. Vibe Slick, red one. One of the Edge, the Piezo, Power Acoustics, obviously, a red. The Horn Edge as well. Yeah, the edges are not winning this one. DS18 ZXI. It kind of see corresponds. Bad distortion, bad third harmonics. Bad distortion, bad third harmonics. But not all of them. I want to find this one, red, that goes above 2%. DS18. EXL. Anything else? Yeah, everything else below 1%. So now let me just try to find the lowest ones. I guess it's going to be the ones that are from this list as well. So let's double check. Let's find Helix first. Stevens Audio. Yes, you can see all the way down there. So Stevens Audio gets a plus. Helix, see, it's relatively different. Like the Stevens has a much lower third harmonic compared to the Helix. Helix third harmonic is quite high, so not all the same drivers will get a good grade in the third harmonic. Illusion Audio, very low. Let's give it to Illusion Audio. Dayton AMT Mini, this is a surprise. It needs to be crossed at 9K, so way above there, but from this, it's, yeah, one of the lowest. It is low. Dayton AMT Mini. And it's not the fake one, it's the original one. Where's the fake one? Okay, so this one is the normal, and this is fake. Okay, so fake one has a higher third harmonic. Hybrid Audio, Legacha, has a very low third harmonic, so let's give it that. I think this Peerless deserves it as well. You can see very low. Peerless 25. I have it as VIFA. Steg, surprisingly very low. So you can see not all the drivers that have like the lowest distortion will have the low third harmonic. This Pioneer, surprisingly. Okay, let's add the Pioneer as well. Recoil, wow. Bullet Tweeter, very low third harmonic. The lowest one. Wow, this is a surprise. Well done, Recoil. Dayton AMT Pod, very low third. Well, it has to be crossed at 12K anyway, so. Timu AMT as well, crossed at 7K, but like if you look at above 8K, it's the lowest one. So Timu AMT, wow. SB29, wow, SB29, the lowest of them all. And the AMT square, so AMTs, you can see these. Wow. Okay, SB29 and AMT square. Is this enough? Man, I could go and go on. I think it's going to be enough. Let's finish this up. Do we have... Did I put Mundorf? Because I know everybody's going to ask. Mundorf, low. Okay, I didn't put it. Where is the Mundorf? There we go. Okay, so third harmonic for Mundorf is average. Like most of them. Yeah, it's not that bad. So, do we see any correlation? China EMT square. Okay, both low distortion, low third harmonic. Okay. DS18, both bad. Edge, both bad. Hertz, both bad. Illusion Audio. It is a good tweeter. The problem is that one of them is burned. I have a pair, but one of them is burned. They're mine, and one of them is okay. So it would be nice to have the second one. A Pioneer and Peerless. Recoil, surprisingly. SB29, okay. Stevens Audio. Very good distortion and very good third harmonics. And Vibe Slick on the opposite. Bad distortion, bad third harmonics. Okay, so again, disclaimer, this is what I did literally just looking at the graphs. You might disagree with me, and it's 100% you have the right. If you do your own things, probably you're gonna find something a little bit different, and it's all up to you. That's why this file is gonna be under the video. Download it, look for yourself, evaluate yourselves. However, from what I can see very quickly, this is the conclusion. And from all of these, if we're gonna come back to this evaluation, I think Stevens Audio deserves a green one here, definitely, because both of these distortion-wise green. And Illusion Audio, green as well. Well done. Disappointing ones, let's rank them. Well, it's not necessary. DS18, both Edge, Power Acoustics, obviously one of the worst, and Vibe Slick. These are the bad ones. But yeah, that's it for this one. Next time, we're going to have a look at the frequency response. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.